So I want to thank everyone for being here. We're here this morning to talk about a package of bills, of legislation that is being led by these incredible California leaders behind me to address the ongoing issue that we face in California around elementary school truancy. And I want to thank these leaders and others who are leaders in education, nonprofits, faith-based community for their input and their contribution to the result, which is this package of bills. As you may know, I have a long-standing history with this issue. When I was district attorney of San Francisco, we did an analysis of who the homicide victims were, who were under the age of 25 when they were killed, and learned that 94% were high school dropouts. And when we went over to figure out what was behind those numbers, talked with the school district and learned that up to 40% of the chronically and habitually truant students were elementary school students, who in some cases were missing 50, 60, up to 80 days of a 180-day school year. So I initiated a project there where we focused on this issue, and because of the spotlight we put on the issue and the community response, we were able to improve attendance by over 30%. So then as Attorney General, we decided that we would commission a report statewide on the issue of elementary school truancy in California. And we issued a report, and that report is called In School and On Track. And what we found is that last year alone in California, the 2012-2013 year, we had 1 million elementary school students in California who were truant. We tracked this information by county, and the report actually then lists county by county, the 58 counties of California, the numbers of students that were truant. We found that up to 250,000 elementary school students that same calendar year, that same school year, were truant by more than 10% of the school year. So we made several recommendations, but underlying the issue in terms of the concern and the seriousness, the significance, the crisis in terms of the issue that it raises for us as a state are a number of factors, including the fact that in terms of elementary school attendance, it matters. Studies have shown that by age 4, children in middle and upper class families hear 30 million more words than children who are on welfare. And that doesn't mean they have a vocabulary, of course, of 30 million words, but they actually hear that many words in conversation over that short period of their life. We learned during the study on the state of elementary school truancy in California of the significance of third grade reading level, which is that if by the end of third grade a child is not at third grade reading level, they literally drop off. They don't catch up. So it is very, very critical to that child's success that from the beginning of their education in school, kindergarten, that they are there every day of class so that by the end of third grade, they are at third grade reading level. The consequences, if that does not occur, is that they are 4 times likely to be a high school dropout. If a child at the end of third grade is not at reading level, they are 4 times more likely than other students to be a high school dropout. And why should the numbers of high school dropouts concern us? Well, because as you know, 82% of the prisoners in the United States are high school dropouts. There's a direct connection between public education and public safety. We also know that there is a direct connection between high school dropouts and, for example, the statistics as it relates to African American men, which is that for African American men who between the age of 30 and 34, if they're not a high school dropout, if they're not a high school graduate, so an African American man between the age of 30 and 34, high school dropout, 2/3 likely to be incarcerated, have been incarcerated, or dead. These numbers are very real. The issue is not only about waste in terms of human potential, it is also for our state an issue about wasted tax dollars. Our report unveiled the fact that last year alone in California, the school districts of California lost $1.4 billion in unreimbursed expenses that they would have otherwise received from the state. Dropouts last year alone cost California $46 billion. When you factor in lost economic productivity, tax revenues, and the burden on our criminal justice system and our public health systems. So this is a real issue. And if we don't have a priority because of what I've already mentioned, then it should be a priority because the California Constitution, in its beauty and very unique way, guarantees the children of California a right to an education. And that is why, as the chief law officer and the chief law enforcement officer of this state, I've decided to make this a priority because it is the law of California. So that being the overview of the issue, I want to thank again the legislative leaders here. They are doing the work every day of being a voice for some of the most voiceless in our state, and on this subject in particular, there could be no more voiceless population than kindergarten through sixth graders. And they are addressing the issue through their leadership, fixing the holes in the system, and being very practical in their approach. And I want to applaud them for that. I also want to applaud them for doing the work that we are collectively doing to support the governor, who outlined the local control funding formula as part of a way that we can achieve a solution in California. And essentially what the local control funding formula does, as designed by Governor Brown, is it establishes a new system for funding schools in California. And in particular, what makes it different and very important is it requires schools to prioritize attendance and chronic absenteeism. So I want to thank the Assembly members and Senator who are here today for their leadership across the board. And I want to particularly outline what they are going to talk about in their leadership, and then they're going to speak. I want to thank Senator Bill Monning from the 17th District. He is going to head up and champion SB 1107, which will require the Attorney General to issue the report that was issued last year on an annual basis. So on an annual basis, track the numbers in terms of elementary school truancy in California. I want to thank Assemblyman Raul Bocanegra from the 39th District. He is championing AB 1866, which will modernize the state's attendance tracking system. I want to thank Assemblywoman Joan Buchanan from the 16th District, who is leading the effort on AB 1643, which requires each county to create a school attendance review board, also known as a SARB. I want to thank Assemblyman Isidore Hall from the 64th District and Assemblyman Rob Bonta from the 18th District, who together are providing the leadership on AB 2141, which requires district attorneys to close the communication loop on cases. And I want to thank Assemblyman Chris Holden from the 41st District, who is leading AB 1672, which requires SARBs to complete enhanced annual reports. So with that, I want to thank again these leaders and underline the point that this is about being smart with the resources that we can have in government to measure our effectiveness based on numbers, measure our effectiveness based on data, and do the right thing by some of our most vulnerable citizens and residents who, although they may seem small, their issues are not small. And if they go unaddressed, I think we will all agree will end up being very big issues and issues that are quite avoidable.
Well, thank you. I'm Senator Bill Monning. I represent the 17th Senate District, 4 counties, including San Luis Obispo, Monterey, Santa Cruz, and Santa Clara County. I want to thank Attorney General Harris for her leadership and for the collaborative she has put together here for us to focus on the issue of truancy. In the Attorney General's report titled In School, On Track, this illustrates the sobering reality in California that the rates of chronic truancy and absenteeism among students have reached crisis levels. The urgent need to address this issue is imperative as we recognize the powerful impact that chronic absenteeism has on the educational development of California's youngest students. Early engagement in learning and education is a preeminent factor in a student's future educational performance and their life trajectory. Stemming the tide of truancy is a critical component to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline. The Attorney General's report represents a successful first step to spotlight this issue and to develop immediate solutions. And our goals are not to find those solutions through criminal enforcement, but through collaboration designed to make children and families successful. And it's for this reason that I've authored SB 1107, which will mandate that the Attorney General's office annually report on truancy and absenteeism in California's elementary schools. It will also gather data on best practices from school districts that have succeeded in reducing trends of truancy. The Attorney General's 2013 report listed 2 of my own constituent counties as having among the highest rates of truancy, the 2nd and 3rd highest truancy rates in the state. These counties have large rural areas, migrant workforce, and poverty, all of which become a nexus to higher truancy rates that we can make a difference by attacking. Generating these annual reports on current truancy levels, combined with a collection of the most effective prevention methods and solutions, we can empower our local school districts, enforcement agencies, and community organizations with the proper tools and metrics needed to confront this issue on a local level. Again, I'd like to thank Attorney General Harris for her leadership on this important issue and for her commitment to addressing this crisis in education and our communities head-on. I look forward to working with the Attorney General and her team, as well as with my colleagues from the state legislature, to reverse these trends for the betterment of our state and, most importantly, for the betterment of the families, the schools, and the communities that have been most critically impacted. Thank you for your attendance here this morning.